The darkness was thick and suffocating, punctuated only by the shallow, rattling breaths Arielle struggled to take. She was pressed into the cramped space beneath the sink of the guest bathroom, the scent of mildew and stale air her only companions. Outside, the heavy, deliberate steps of Liam paced the hallway, his voice a low, terrifying hum as he searched. "Just tell me where you are, princess. I won't hurt you again." Lies. Her phone screen was the single source of light, revealing the impossible exchange. A desperate text had been sent to a complete stranger, "He is going to kill me." The reply had come instantly, cold and strategic, "You have 3 minutes to live. I suggest you answer this call." Her heart slammed against her ribs. She couldn't speak, couldn't risk the sound. Her fingers, slick with fear, finally managed to type a response, "Can't speak. Hiding." The stranger's next command was harsh and absolute, "Where's your last safe place? Address now. Or die a silent coward." This wasn't a hero, this was something worse. But at this moment, worse was all she had. Trembling, she typed her address. A second later, the reply came, devoid of warmth or urgency, yet terrifyingly absolute. It had a name attached now, Min-Jae Park. The text read, "Stay quiet. My team is 60 seconds out. Do not move." 60 seconds. Liam's footsteps stopped right outside the door. He chuckled, a wet, sickening sound. "Found you." He began shouldering the door, the wood groaning and cracking around the cheap lock. Arielle squeezed her eyes shut, pulling her legs tighter to her chest, bracing for the inevitable violence. 50 seconds. The sound of splintering wood filled the air, the door buckling inward. Then, there was a different sound. Not Liam. A dull, heavy thud from the hallway, followed by a metallic shing and an immediate, absolute silence. The cracking door froze, held by 2 black-gloved hands that reached in from the hall. The hands moved the ruined door aside with silent, deliberate ease. Standing in the frame was Min-Jae Park. He wasn't breathing hard, his tailored dark suit was immaculate. His eyes, cold and assessing, swept over Arielle's trembling form. Behind him, 2 men in matching black stood over a figure slumped motionless against the wall. Min-Jae held a phone to his ear, his voice low and utterly devoid of emotion. He spoke briefly into the phone. "Target secured. Bring the vehicle." He didn't look at Liam's body, his gaze was fixed only on Arielle. He dropped the phone into his jacket pocket, took 2 silent steps into the bathroom, and simply offered her a hand. "Get up," he ordered. "You belong to me now. Welcome to my channel. Do sit back and enjoy. Don't forget to like and subscribe." The sudden, heavy silence was more terrifying than Liam's rage. Min-Jae's hand was extended, a dark, intimidating glove against the pale porcelain of the bathroom. Arielle's fear of Liam instantly transmuted into a dizzying, suffocating dread of the man standing over her. He was impossibly tall, his presence filling the cramped space with an authority so absolute it felt physical. She pushed herself up, stumbling past his hand without touching it. The air was thick with the sterile scent of expensive cologne and something metallic, not blood, but the cold tang of exposed power. She glanced back. Liam was a sprawl of dark fabric and limp limbs, his eyes wide and vacant, staring at the ceiling. One of Min-Jae's men was retrieving a long, thin, silver blade that had been surgically placed just below Liam's sternum. It hadn't been a fight, it had been a calculated execution. "He's dead," she whispered, the words catching in her throat. Min-Jae didn't bother to look. "He ceased to be a threat," he corrected, his voice a low, precise instrument. "Efficiency is rarely noisy." He gripped her arm, not gently, but with a firm ownership that brooked no resistance, steering her past his men. The entire team moved in a choreographed blur. Within seconds, Arielle was hustled into the back of a black, armored sedan that appeared as silent and imposing as Min-Jae himself. As the car sped through the city streets, Min-Jae stared out the window, his profile calm and unreadable. "I don't need a savior," Arielle finally managed, her voice shaking but firm. "I need help, not another owner." Min-Jae turned his head slowly, his dark eyes locking onto hers. There was no warmth, only the chilling acknowledgement of a valuable acquisition. "You misunderstand the transaction," he stated, leaning closer. His breath was cool on her cheek. "I don't offer help. I saw a piece of property I desired that was being carelessly damaged. Now that I have intervened, the cost of my time and resources is your absolute compliance." He reached out, his long finger tracing the line of her jaw, a gesture of cold possession. His declaration was a decree, his voice like chipped ice. "You are my collection now, Arielle. You belong to me." Arielle awoke to a silence so profound it felt like a vacuum. Gone was the familiar, oppressive tension of her old apartment, replaced by air that was cool, filtered, and faintly scented with cedar and wealth. She was in a bed so large it felt isolating, swathed in silk sheets. The room was vast and intimidating, a space carved from glass and steel, perched impossibly high above the glowing, indifferent city. It was minimalist luxury, all sharp lines and muted tones of black, gray, and obsidian. It was a fortress, the ultimate expression of control. She was in Min-Jae Park's penthouse. A chime sounded. Min-Jae walked in from a door Arielle hadn't noticed, already dressed in a fresh, perfectly tailored suit. He carried a tray with a glass of water, a selection of expensive pastries, and a small, sterile first aid kit. "Don't touch the phone," he instructed, setting the tray on a bedside table. "It's a burner, monitored only by my people. Any external communication will be considered an act of escape." He sat on the edge of the bed, his weight barely disturbing the mattress, and began tending to the small, defensive bruises on her arms. His touch was clinical, yet intensely focused. "The police are useless," he stated, his eyes fixed on her skin. "Liam's connections are strong. He's already walking free, claiming he was attacked by a rogue security detail. They are filing a missing persons report for you and actively searching the city. They think you are a traumatized victim who needs to be returned to your husband. Arielle's breath hitched. She had risked everything, only to find the law was still on his side. Min-Jae finally looked up, his gaze intense. "This penthouse is my territory. My power extends to these walls. Outside, Liam is a dog with a badge, a threat I have neutralized temporarily, but a threat nonetheless." He gestured to the glass tower surrounding them. "In my world, you are protected. Outside, you are prey for a dog that needs to be put down." He stood, towering over the bed. "You are safe here. But understand, this is a gilded cage. Your life outside of it is over." The gilded cage only felt colder after Min-Jae's declaration. Arielle spent the rest of the day in a state of hypervigilance, alternating between the urge to bolt and the paralyzing realization that bolting would only deliver her back to Liam. When Min-Jae returned, he didn't ask her anything. He simply gestured toward the door, indicating she should follow. He led her through a corridor of polished marble and into a vast private office. One wall was a seamless screen of deep, matte black. With a single, precise hand gesture, Min-Jae brought the screen to life. It was not a stock ticker or a financial report. It was her life. Photos scrolled across the screen, candid shots of her laughing with her sister, a blurry image of her on a park bench 5 years ago, detailed receipts from her old job, and even a calendar marked with all her previous addresses. Arielle felt a sickening drop in her stomach. It was a digital dossier, meticulously compiled, terrifyingly complete. "This is the cost of my rescue," Min-Jae said, his voice flat, gesturing to the illuminated wall. The file began 5 years ago. An accidental sighting. You were walking past a restaurant I owned. You looked dissatisfied. Arielle stumbled backward, her hand flying to her mouth. You've been watching me? I have been compiling data, he corrected, turning to face her fully. I knew your routine, your vulnerabilities, your partner's violence. I knew the precise moment your situation would become terminal. The text message was merely the final confirmation that my acquisition window was open. The realization hit her with the force of a physical blow. The wrong number was merely the final step in his long-planned right direction. She wasn't an emergency rescue, she was a patient target. You're not a hero, she whispered, her voice laced with disgust. You're a stalker. Min-Jae simply inclined his head, accepting the title as a point of fact. He stepped closer, crowding her space until she could only look up at the cold, beautiful ruthlessness in his eyes. I don't save people, Arielle, he admitted, his voice a low, lethal purr. I take what I want. And I have wanted you since the day I first saw you. He reached out and gently tilted her chin up, his gaze intense and demanding. Consider Liam a clumsy, temporary obstacle I finally removed to complete my collection. Arielle found herself trapped in a perpetual state of hypervigilance. Min-Jae's penthouse was an exquisite, gilded cage, but the luxury did nothing to soften the lethal reality of her situation. She spent the better part of the third day pacing the perimeter, her desperate need to understand the man who owned her life finally winning over her paralyzing fear. She found him in his private office that evening, a fortress of dark stone and frosted glass. He was not engaged in the chaotic violence she associated with crime. He was sitting quietly, efficiently, behind a vast dark wood desk. His focus was absolute. Min-Jae was conducting business, not with shouting or threats, but with cold, precise calculation. On the screen before him, complex algorithms and financial data scrolled. He spoke only in low, infrequent Korean to a subordinate, issuing directions that sounded like surgical commands. With a swift, final movement of his pen, he signed a single document, a death warrant written in legal ink. A man standing opposite him immediately bowed deeply, retrieving the paper as if it were a sacred text. What was that? Arielle asked, her voice tight. Min-Jae didn't look up. Financial termination. Mr. Han thought he could leverage a deal against me. He was mistaken. He's solvent now, but by sunrise, he will be ruined. Socially, professionally, and utterly alone. You destroyed him without a gun, she breathed, the realization of the true scope of his power hitting her. You're not just a killer, you're an executioner of lives. He finally lifted his head, his expression utterly impassive. Is that a condemnation, Arielle, or a simple observation? It's a condemnation, she shot back, finding a surge of moral clarity in the face of his apathy. What you do, this cold, calculating destruction, is monstrous. It's why you have to live up here, above the rules. Min-Jae rose, circling the desk with a slow, predatory grace until he stood directly before her. He looked down, his eyes piercing through her defiance. I am a monster, yes. I have never pretended to be anything else. His voice lowered, taking on a dangerous, velvet sincerity. But tell me, when Liam was breaking down your door, who was the real monster? The man who was going to take your life in the name of love? Or the man who broke his code to save a stranger? He paused, letting the silence settle around the undeniable facts. When you were being hunted, who did the law protect? Him. Who saved you? Me. Choose your monster wisely, Arielle. Because in this city, you have no other choice. He left her standing there, alone with the chilling certainty that the only safe place left was by the side of the most dangerous man she had ever known. 2 tense days bled into one another in the penthouse, defined by Min-Jae's silent, controlling presence and Arielle's frustrated inertia. She felt like a beautiful, useless relic. The peace was suffocating, and the knowledge that Liam was still out there, unpunished, was a constant low thrum of dread. The dread became terror when her burner phone finally flashed with an external message. The number was blocked, and the message contained only a single photograph. It was her younger sister, Maya, looking small and fragile. She was tied to a chair in a room Arielle didn't recognize, her eyes wide with confused fear. The accompanying text was from Liam, chillingly casual, "Come back home, baby. Or I'll send you the pieces, one by one. I'm giving you 2 hours." Arielle didn't scream, she went silent, her hands shaking so violently she dropped the phone. The sound brought Min-Jae, who had been on a call in his office, instantly to her side. He picked up the device, his eyes scanning the image and the threat. "This is a blatant provocation," Min-Jae stated, his voice flat. He immediately began issuing terse commands into his earpiece in rapid Korean. "Do not panic. This is precisely what he wants. He has Maya," Arielle whispered, the reality suffocating her. "I have to go. I have to give myself up." She lunged for the door, driven by a loyalty far stronger than her fear. Min-Jae caught her instantly, his grip iron, pinning her against the wall with his body. He didn't hurt her, but his proximity was a terrifying, absolute veto. "No," he commanded, his eyes burning with controlled fury. "That is a death sentence for both of you. You walk into that trap, and you die in pieces after you watch her suffer. You stay here. We solve this strategically." "Strategically," she spat, pushing against his chest with newfound, furious strength. "You don't understand. She's innocent. I can't hide behind your money while she..." Tears finally breached her control, streaming down her face. "I won't be the helpless victim anymore. I won't just wait for you to save me." She stopped fighting his physical hold, but her eyes, red-rimmed and fierce, met his challenge. "I was prey then," Arielle demanded, her voice raw with protective rage. "But I don't have to be now. Teach me. Whatever it is you do, I can't just be helpless. Teach me how to use the power you have. Teach me how to kill." Min-Jae stared at Arielle, his face an expressionless mask of consideration. Her demand wasn't a plea, it was a furious challenge born from necessity. He let the silence stretch, measuring the depth of the resolve in her tear-streaked eyes. "Very well," he finally stated, his voice a low, gravelly assent. "If you wish to stop being a casualty, you will learn to be a weapon." He released her and led her through a series of hidden doors to the lower levels of the penthouse, a vast, concrete space that smelled faintly of metal and disinfectant. It was a private training facility, stark and functional. Min-Jae wasted no time on comforting words or gradual introduction. He retrieved a matte black training knife, long, balanced, and wicked, and put it into her hand. The biggest mistake a victim makes is noise. Noise attracts attention. Noise shows panic. We aim for silence. He moved behind her, his body heat a shocking contrast to the cold knife handle. He guided her grip, correcting her stance until she was balanced on the balls of her feet, ready to spring. His instructions were ruthless and anatomical, not about broad movements, but about precision. "Force is irrelevant," he murmured, his breath ghosting her ear. "Strategy is everything. Know the vulnerable points." He pressed the flat of the knife against the back of his own neck, right where the spine met the skull. "Here. Quiet and absolute. The carotid artery. The femoral nerve. You do not hit. You slice. You sever. You eliminate." Every movement was intensely intimate, yet devoid of passion. It was a lesson in lethal efficiency, delivered by a man who treated the human body like a mechanical blueprint. Arielle was overwhelmed by the sudden proximity, but the urgency of Maya's situation kept her focus locked on the blade. "If you hesitate," Min-Jae warned, stepping away, "the weakness will consume you. If you allow emotion to guide your hand, you will become collateral damage." He then posed the ultimate test, his eyes holding hers with cold gravity. "Look at me," he commanded. "You do not survive by running. You survive by being the sharpest thing in the room." He slowly presented his unprotected abdomen, his posture daring. "If you truly wish to leave this life and condemn me, if you believe my path is wrong, put the blade in me and walk out. Prove that you are capable of the sacrifice required for freedom." Arielle's hands trembled, the knife feeling impossibly heavy. The choice was stark: kill the man who saved her, or accept his monstrous teaching. She tightened her grip, held the tip steady for 3 agonizing beats, and then, with a defeated exhale, lowered the blade. She had chosen the monster's way. The 2 hours Liam had given her felt like 2 lifetimes. Arielle had dedicated every second to the silent, precise movements Min-Jae had taught her, the training knife a cool, familiar extension of her hand. Her mind was a fortress, her focus sharp. Min-Jae's team worked with the same silent efficiency. Just as the deadline approached, a notification flashed on Min-Jae's personal device: target secured. No casualties. Maya was safe. The relief was immediate and overwhelming, but Arielle choked it back, maintaining the cold resolve she'd cultivated with the blade. "He will not stop," Arielle stated, her voice steady. "He thinks he has leverage. He thinks I'm weak." "Precisely," Min-Jae confirmed, looking up from his communications console. "And we will allow him to continue thinking that. We will give him a stage, and you will give him his final performance." He revealed the plan: the city's annual most exclusive charity gala, televised and attended by every powerful, high-profile figure in the region, was scheduled for that night. Min-Jae was not only attending but was the guest of honor. Arielle would attend as his date, the new, prized addition to his empire. "Liam will crash it," Min-Jae explained. "He's driven by control and public shame. He won't allow me to parade what he considers his property in front of the world. He will come to reclaim you, publicly, where he believes his badge will still grant him authority." A maid entered, carrying a dress, a sleek, dark sapphire silk gown that moved like liquid shadow. It was stunning, designed to draw every eye in the room. Min-Jae handed Arielle a necklace, a delicate chain that held a diamond pendant. "This is not jewelry," he said, his eyes drilling into hers. "It is a covert communicator, microphone, and a high-resolution camera. Every word, every movement, will be recorded by my people." Arielle accepted the necklace, the stone cool against her palm. She looked at the dress, no longer seeing a vulnerable woman's garment, but a tool. Min-Jae stepped closer, his dark suit already immaculate, smelling of power and danger. He ran a single, possessive finger along the silk covering her collarbone. "Wear this dress, Arielle. It is your armor. We walk in together. You are the bait, and you are the executioner." He looked at her, his voice low and utterly intense. "We give him the setting he deserves, and you deliver the verdict he earned." The ballroom was a blaze of diamonds and designer silk, yet Arielle felt only the controlled, icy focus Min-Jae had hammered into her. She walked beside him, a vision in sapphire, every move deliberate. Her eyes scanned the perimeter, not for admiring gazes, but for the predatory approach of Liam. Min-Jae led her to the central stage where the evening's entertainment, a surprise performance, was announced. Arielle was handed a microphone, her presence not just that of a consort, but of an honored speaker. She stepped into the spotlight, the bright heat of it a jarring contrast to the cold calculation in her heart. She began to speak, her voice clear and strong, not about charity, but about the insidious nature of control and the reclaiming of one's own voice. As her words flowed, Arielle could feel the energy in the room shift, a mix of awe and discomfort. She was no longer a victim, she was a spectacle of defiance. And then, he appeared. Liam, dressed in the crisp uniform of the venue's head of security, his face a mask of furious, possessive rage. He used his false authority to march straight backstage, waiting for her to finish. Arielle left the stage and walked straight toward him. "You should have stayed hidden," Liam sneered, his voice low, his eyes frantic as he grabbed her arm. Before she could react, he shoved a small, clear baggie into the pocket of her gown. "Now the police can arrest you for possession. Let's see your mafia toy protect you from that." Arielle's hands moved before her conscious mind registered the danger. Years of pent-up rage and Min-Jae's ruthless training converged. She brought her knee up hard and fast, connecting with his groin. As Liam doubled over with a grunt of pain, she snatched the heavy, metal microphone stand and swung it in a practiced arc, striking the side of his head with a dull thwack. He stumbled, dazed, but not out. Arielle pressed the attack, using the momentum. She was on him in a flash, tackling him to the ground. Her hand, moving with terrifying familiarity, reached into her gown and pulled out the small, wickedly sharp training knife Min-Jae had insisted she carry. She pressed the cold, surgical point of the blade against the pulse point in Liam's throat. Her breathing was steady. Her eyes were hard. She was the executioner. "You lose," she whispered, her voice devoid of fear. Min-Jae stepped out from the shadows near the wings, his face utterly calm, his eyes gleaming with satisfaction. He didn't look at Liam, he looked only at Arielle. He then spoke, his voice carrying clearly to the hidden microphone on her necklace. "It's a beautiful performance, Arielle. And now, for the grand finale. Let's ensure the world knows the true nature of their hero." Min-Jae gestured to the room. "Smile for the camera, Liam. You're live on all major news feeds. Your threats, your crimes, and your defeat." Liam was hauled away by Min-Jae's men, his shouts of "This is a setup. I'm an officer," swallowed by the chaos of the high-profile arrest. The gala was in a frenzy, yet Arielle stood perfectly still, the knife now safely concealed, her heart hammering a steady, powerful rhythm that was no longer driven by fear. She had won. Min-Jae watched the retreat of his men with a look of cool dismissal, then turned his full attention back to Arielle. He had witnessed her transformation, the hesitation of the victim replaced by the precision of the trained killer. "Your verdict was recorded, and the documentation is already securing his permanent removal from public life," Min-Jae informed her, taking her hand and leading her back toward the penthouse exit, leaving the mayhem to his subordinates. Liam's public humiliation was the first phase. The second came swiftly. By the time they reached the Obsidian penthouse, Min-Jae's phone displayed the official news ticker: "Disgraced former officer Liam Miller dies in transport accident during preliminary transfer." The phrasing was deliberately vague, yet the meaning was crystalline. He was eliminated. No trials, no appeals, no chance of return. Arielle looked at the headline, then at Min-Jae. The necessary violence had been completed. There was no guilt, only a profound, silent sense of finality and freedom. Min-Jae led her onto the balcony. The city lights blurred beneath a sudden, heavy rain, lending the night a dramatic, cinematic intensity. He took her hand again, his touch possessive and absolute. "Your life is clean now, Arielle. The past is erased. The future is ours to define." He reached into his coat and produced a velvet box. Inside, resting on the cushion, was a striking, geometrically cut black diamond ring. "I am not offering you a quiet, conventional life," he stated, his voice a low promise of power. "I am not offering you a husband. I'm offering you an empire, built on my devotion and your will. You have proven you possess the necessary ruthlessness to survive and to rule." He slid the ring onto her finger, the black diamond cool and heavy. "I'm not offering you safety, Arielle. I'm offering you vengeance and devotion, empire and equality. I'm offering you everything I am. Monster, king, killer, yours. All of it." He looked into her eyes, waiting for her final, transformative choice. Min-Jae offered her not a promise of peace, but a pact of power. I'm not offering you a husband, Arielle. I'm offering you an empire, built on my devotion and your will. You are the queen of my darkness. Take the throne.